Welcome to round 2 of the South African Rotax Max Challenge at Laserfische Raceway Vereeniging in Gauteng.
We head now into Heat 1 of the Junior Max race. It's Joseph Ulls on pole, the driver from Cape Town with Akil Alibi in second, Kwanda Mokoena third, Jaden Els fourth, and Daniel Patrizi in fifth. Laserfische bringing up the rest of the pack in sixth there.
Flying went very well for you. Great place to start on pole for the weekend.
Yeah, we're looking to convert now. Last time it was unlucky, the weather played with our setup. But we know this track is notorious for so many overtakes and a ton of action, so we know it's going to be a hard day.
Who are guys to watch out for, especially knowing a lot of them as this is their home track?
Well, I would say Akil and Kwanda, but the whole field, the top 8, it's just everybody's in it to win it, so it's going to be a real tough race. Strategy, I think, we just got to try and get away from the pack. We know there'll be a lot of action behind. A clean getaway would be the best thing.
It's been tough this whole weekend. It's been close with everyone. Less than points won from 5th to 1st, so anything can happen.
You had a bit of a moment this morning in warm-up.
Yeah, got driven over, but luckily got a new chassis, so now we're still in the process of rebuilding.
Strategy for the race? Because you do like the circuit.
Since I'm starting on third, I'll be on the inside, just try and stick on the leader, and then maybe just put a little dive bomb on the first lap.
We head now into the start of Heat 1. Joseph Ulls, as I said before, on pole, ahead of Akil Alibi, the RKT man, with Kwanda Mokoena behind him and Jaden Els just next to him as they head down the main straight. But Kwanda Mokoena had to rebuild an entire kart between warm-up and this first heat after a bit of contact with another competitor as they head down the main straight. The flag drops and the race is on. A driver pushed way wide there. That looks like Kutsia ending up in the grass as Joseph Ulls D's out the pack into turn 1. Going slightly defensive on the first lap. Is he able to get the drive down the back straight? That he is. Kwanda Mokoena looking dangerous down the inside. Can't make it happen with the Patrizi going down the inside of his stablemate Akil Alibi, giving him a little bit of a nudge, pushing him wide and allowing the rest of the field through. He's dropped way down there outside the top 10, and it's left the two FA boys, Joseph Ulls and Kwanda Mokoena, to lead out the rest of the pack.
Yeah, Mokoena doesn't want to let the guy from Cape Town get away so early in the race. Ulls has shown some great pace, and Mokoena, is a Gauteng boy. He's won last year's first national title in Mini Rock. He wants to now come and play. A lot of his guys made the step up from Mini Max, and they want to now start making a name up for themselves here in Junior Max. And we've got guys, Jaden Els, 2 years ago in 2016 Italy, the world Mini Max champion. We've got Leighton Fourie, last year also doing great for South Africa at the World Finals.
Mokoena, though, taking a couple of steps back. Patrizi and Els getting past him after a strong move from Patrizi. He seems very good on the brakes into that long right-hand hairpin. Is that Fisser 457 getting up the inside of Mokoena? Something seems to be not so right with that kart as there's contact behind him. That's Akil Alibi and Heath Simpson-Smith. Leighton Fourie giving a bit of a shove there. I think that's from Kwanda Mokoena getting pushed wide and having to try and get himself back onto the circuit. We seem to have lost both of them.
It seems like Mokoena had a problem with his kart. After he ran wide, he just suddenly bogged down and it seemed there was a problem with his kart. So yeah, maybe it was a bit more than just a shove, and maybe it was a technical problem.
Look, for a team and there's a technical problem. It's lost the wheel. You can't fault the team for that. They had to rebuild an entire chassis in 25 minutes, and they did a great job to get the kart onto the circuit. As we go back to the front in battle, it is led out by Joseph Ulls in second place there. Looks like Daniel Patrizi with a Jaden Els strong behind him.
They've put a little bit of a gap. Laserfische, who started further back, is coming on a charge, and we all know he's got pace.
Joseph Ulls has always been one to lead out the pack. He's very strong at leading the pack. He knows exactly what to do, very consistent, but Patrizi and Els looking very hungry just behind him.
Yeah, also Els, local from Vereeniging, his home track, and since he stepped up to Junior Max, he's come in leaps and bounds. After winning the World Championship in 2016, you come and everybody suddenly thinks, he's got a target on his back because, he won a major event.
But it's also nice to see those that are moving up straight away their first season in Junior Max, and they are very strong drivers like Heath Simpson-Smith, unfortunately, as I talk about him, he puts it in the grass commentator's curse. Apologise for that, bud. But even drivers like Jared Roberski, Zaim Gulam been there a year already, but it's just nice to see these youngsters coming up from a smaller class and doing so well in their first season up in the big leagues.
I'm surprised by Patrizi's pace. I didn't expect him to be pushing right at the front here, looking at possibly taking the lead.
The one thing they have been doing is doing both series, doing a lot of laps, doing a lot of driving in these bigger chassis, and that has made them stronger competitors throughout. There's nothing better than seat time.
Yes, it's one thing that you constantly, when you speak to parents, say, what changed?
Patrizi with a nice little move down the inside there. It was a bit late. I don't think Joseph Wills saw it, and unfortunately it stuck him offline, and he's lost 1, 2, 3, 4 places in the process.
And yeah, Patrizi in the front. And look who's sitting behind him.
Akil Alibi down the inside there. I don't think he saw Else. I think he thought Else was showing him pass, not showing him come, let's go. And the moves are very robust in this class. Else coming off second best and being put into the grass there by Akil Alibi.
And the Cape Townian, Charles Visser, suddenly looking at possibly taking the lead.
Cape Townian's been very strong no matter where they go. I think it's the amount of lap times, the amount of time on the circuit they're gifted there at Cape Town. And the level of competitiveness down there has increased in leaps and bounds in the last few years.
Yes, especially in this class, Cape Town's got a very strong contingent. And I think wherever you go, when the regional championship is strong, it gets duplicated up into nationals.
It's nice to see, though, that we've got 2 regions that are doing really well. The other regions also growing as we go along. It's nice to see karting numbers get bigger and bigger as we go through the years. We took a bit of a slump previously, and it's starting to come back now. It's nice to see.
Visser is looking very, very racy, and I don't know how long Patrice is going to keep him out.
Both of these drivers have done a lot of European racing, as Visser comes down the inside now into the first corner onto the back straight, and he's managed to get the move stick again. There's that block pass I was talking about with the Micromaxes. Just gives you that kart length to get away so they can't come straight back at you into the next corner.
It was a very, very strong move. I think if Patrizi tried to resist that, somebody would have ended up in the dirt.
Yeah, the elbows are definitely out in this class, and we've seen it in the previous national, and we're probably going to see it throughout the season. These kids are giving no hold bars racing. They're not allowing any inch to any other driver, and it's actually creating some exciting racing.
Akil right in there, also starting to put pressure on Patrizi.
Akil, a strong driver. He's again also done a lot of European racing. Did almost a full season last year overseas, and he's going to be one of those elbow out drivers I was talking about earlier.
And Jaden also, suddenly there's a whole queue of them lining up, and I think this is what is so encouraging about our championships, and seeing 5-6 guys duking it out, less than a 10th second, covering 4-5 drivers. And I think that is what, when you race in Europe, what you see all the time, and when we go to these big international races, this is how it's done.
Joseph Wills there giving a little bit back into the tight left there on Jaden Else. Was he able to make the move stick? He was. Now moving his way up to 4th position. He's shown proper pace no matter where he's been in what class throughout his career. And again, showing pace here at Vereeniging again.
I think Charles thought, okay, I'm past now I'll disappear at the front. It's not happening, Charles.
Not in this class and not in this circuit, like I was saying before, with all the classes. Slipstream makes a big difference on this circuit, especially with this long back straight. Heading now down into the hairpin. Is anybody going to be making a move? He has the maturity I was talking about earlier. Drivers just staying nose to tail, line astern into the last few laps. But I can tell you, in the last few laps, it's going to get exciting. The one looking racer there, though, is Joseph Wills, eager to get back to the front. He knows he's got the pace to lead this pack, and he only knows how to lead. He's not very good with just following the pack and staying line astern.
And Jaden Els, improved a hell of a lot since he's joined the class. And I think he's also saying, okay, I want into the top 3. I'm not happy to hang around the top 5 at the fifth place here. So I think we can get to see a push from him as well.
He's definitely looking like the odd one out there, the only CRG man amongst the gaggle of OTK karts there. Looking down the inside now, ready to make a move on Joseph Wills, and he gets it done and makes a stick. Joseph Wills just running off into the dirt there and having to slide up onto the curb. Keeping himself on the circuit, though, as they head down into the tight right-hander. As I know it, Mercedes-Benz hasn't been called that for a couple of years, I'll be told.
And the front 3 now just pulled a little bit of a gap, but I think it will be temporary. because a move on the inside there of Akil. Akil pushing Patrizi a little bit, and now Jaden is right back into it.
Akil maybe braking a little bit too hard, locking the wheels a little bit too much, and almost sliding into Patrizi. It's lost him 2 or 3 car lengths from Fisser. Is it going to be enough for Charles to just eke out a gap, just get a bit of breathing room to get away from this pack?
I think that little glance over the shoulder from Fisser was a bit of a glance of relief, because he realized that these guys are squabbling behind him, and that's giving him a bit of a gap.
All of these karts we're watching now are running within 0.1 of a second of each other. 0.1 is the gap. It is unbelievable to see the race in this close, as Patrizi's not going to take that one line down and hits down the inside of Akil, just braking that bit too late and allowing Akil to do the cutback move through that right-hander.
And Jaden think, okay, you guys battle, I'm going to be next in line to take. And he makes a move.
They're getting a little bit hooked up there on the curb, and it's may possibly end into... There's the contact, and Patrizi over the top of Als. That looked like it hurt, and yes, it did. The poor youngster there holding his wrist. I think he took a knock there from Patrizi's kart.
He also took a big knock against the head, but yeah, I think the hand is the problem.
And here's the checkered flag. It's Charles Fisser taking the lead ahead of Akil Alibi, Joseph Wills in third, and Simon Simpson-Heath in fourth.
Yeah, Charles Fisser, that little break that he got early on, did well to keep him out in front. And let's look at this incident again.
It looks to me like Patrizi just got up on the curb and they were managed just to touch back wheels. It was enough just to rotate Patrizi up onto the top of Els.
Yeah, unfortunately for elsewhere, put him out for the rest of the day. Charles Fisser taking it from Alibi, Uls, Simpson Heath, Daniel De Paiva in 5th place, Bishop, and then Leighton Fourie.
Tell me about your race.
Well, it was a good race, a lot of pressure. So I can't complain. I got the win, but they kept me on my nerves. But luckily, I got the pace and I could keep focus.
What does this mean for the next race?
For next race, it means I got it. So it means that I got the points, but now I have the car to win again.
In the start, I didn't have such a good start because I was second in the start. Then I came to the Mercedes there after the straight, and then they pushed me wide. So then I had to catch up the ground, and then luckily I managed to catch up the ground. And then I tried to pass through the field, and then I was just towing the Nele to keep up with Shell. And then when I saw the lap board, it was 2 laps only left. So then I had to pass him, or else then he wasn't going to let me through. So then I had to block my line on the last lap.
What's your plan for the next race?
My plan for the next race is maybe if I can get into second and tow whoever is in first. And then on the last 3 laps, I'll try fight with him, and then hopefully I can win the race.
We head now into the second heat. Unfortunately, that incident with Els and Patrizi has left Els out of the running for the rest of the day. We look at Joseph Ellerine trying to get his way back into position there. Obviously had a poor start on the warm-up lap. Managed to get back into formation as they head into the 90-meter tram lines. The flag is up and the flag is down, but the second row didn't seem to get away there, as Joseph Wills now looking to go defensive straight away. He's dropped all the way down. Is that Joseph Wills? No, it's Charles Fisser, and a big amount of contact there at the back. Gaggle of drivers out of there. It looks like Jared Roberski also involved in that, and it's allowed Leighton Fourie showing a bit of turn of pace in the first heat. His fastest lap, allowing him to get up to the front there and start in the front again for the second heat as they head now through the long left. That's Kwanda Mokoena on the outside. Not a great national for him at all, as Fisser goes down the inside there of Daniel De Paiva, older brother of Josh De Paiva. We saw dominate the Micromax class previously, as we look at Jaden Els. Trying to have a look there on, not Jaden Els, that is Ethan Kutsia getting down the inside of Simon Simpson-Heath. Kutsia was the one we saw go off in the beginning of the first heat.
Leighton Fourie must be saying, okay, at least something is going right this weekend because I'm leading a race.
Yeah, he had a bit of a dismal first heat. Hopefully he can make it back, as they have released one of the stranded carts right in front of the front pack. Not a great idea, but they've managed to get through okay. Joseph Wills already looking racy down the inside of Leighton Fourie, but if anybody is the last of the late breakers, it's Leighton. And there is a crash. That looked like the carts I was talking about earlier getting released right in the front of the front pack. Joseph Wills down the inside now of Leighton Fourie, making the move stick and making it stick well.
Yeah, Leighton Fourie now between the two Cape Townians there, and he's going to have to decide, do I go with him or can I dice them for the rest of the day? Do I have a pace? Because there's a lot of pressure coming from behind.
Akil Alibi now down the inside of Daniel there into the last corner onto the main straight. But you'll notice that there are radiator flaps on these carts. Some of them closed and some of them open. It's to allow the drivers to control the temperature of these Junior Max motors. No one can pass here. There's a yellow flag out. Leighton Free seems quite happy there to be the meat in a Cape Town sandwich. But looks like Charles Visser has other ideas about that.
Yeah, Charles Visser had showed his pace in the first heat, and here in the second heat he wants to get to Ulls because the Cape Town boys like to play together, and he knows going down to Cape Town and for the next national, you better go there with a good points haul.
Watching this gaggle of carts is like watching them previous years in just slightly smaller carts, like their carts have been put through the washing machine and now they're back to the same size. It's the same drivers we've seen in previous classes in the smaller categories, the Mini Rock and the Mini Maxes, but they just graduated now into a junior high school class, and it's all the same again. The only one missing here is Jared Roberski, obviously having a difficult weekend this weekend. He was so strong in Durban, but he'll be looking to come back again strong at the next national.
Okay, is Charles going to make a move here? Going very late, no, not late enough, and Akil is saying, okay, come, let's move it. I can see Ulls getting away at the front.
Leighton Free did so well last year at the World Finals in the mini-match category, showing that experience sunk in a bit, and he's able to stop that kart a lot later than anybody else behind him. There's Charles Visser playing with the radiator flap I was talking about earlier, just making sure it's open and just making sure his temperatures are in check. The one thing that hasn't happened though is Leighton is the only one that hasn't opened it. So maybe he might have possibly forgotten about it. Maybe he's running a bit hot now. Who knows? We'll know as the laps go on in this race.
Last year at the World Finals, he had that problem where his car overheated towards the end of the race, purely because of that flap. And it cost him 2-3 places at the World Finals. He probably was looking at a third place, and he ended up, I think, 5th or 6th, purely because of overheating.
It may possibly end up being a problem here, unless they are running slightly different jetting and they are able to run cooler than the carts behind them. But all 5 carts radiator flap open except for him is a bit odd for me.
Akil is really out of the front lot, looking quite the fastest guy out there, and I think Charles has got to be very, very wary of him.
It looks like it will be these 4 racing for the lead though. It does look like a bit of a gap is eked out for Joseph Ulls there. Something he's very good at doing, controlling the pace and controlling the gap. He's good at leading an event and leading a race, and he's managed just to stay consistent and get away from this chasing pack.
I've watched him now. He's driving his own race. I never saw him looking back once. He's got his head down and he's just going at the front and not concerned about the rest of the guys. Leave him to squabble amongst each other.
What looks like to us like Charles Visser having a look down the inside of Leighton every time they head into the right hand is actually just a difference in line. Charles Visser going in a little bit later and a little bit tighter, but unable to get the exit Leighton Free is getting from that wider line, and it seems to be helping him through this tighter section of the circuit.
I see Simpson Heath coming up behind De Paiva. I wonder if he's going to manage to get past him before the end of the race.
Simon showed very consistent lap times in the previous heat, and Daniel maybe struggling with a bit of drop off there in either jetting or maybe chassis got a little bit too much grip, tire pressure is a bit too high, and towards the end of the heat he starts losing a bit of pace.
The dice for 2nd, 3rd and 4th heating up, and I can see Ulls at the front. He's just eking out the 10th every lap, just getting more and more comfortable and making it more difficult for these guys to come back at him later.
Akil, always a wily old fox. He's used to being on the back of the front pack. He's used to biding his time and waiting for his opportunity to come to him rather than create it himself. And I think he'll be strong for the leader of this group. It looks like Joseph Ulls has checked out and made this win his own, but anything can happen with the lap still remaining.
Leighton also, I think, sitting there in 2nd place, keeping Visser and Akil Alibi behind him. He must be happy because I think, he's had his struggles the first round specifically and this weekend also, and I think 2nd place for him will almost be like winning a race.
Akil there helping Visser on to try and get onto the back of Leighton Free again rather than have him moved on the inside, but I guess he doesn't think he can manage it and has gone past Charles Visser. Charles tried to defend it a little bit too much and lost 2 or 3 kart lengths on Akil, but thankfully he's got the gap on those behind him.
Oh, Akil immediately pulled away. I mean, it was like 3-4 kart lengths within 2 corners.
Obviously the turn of pace is strong towards the end of the race here. They've geared that car to get going towards the end of these heats, and it seems to be paying off for him now.
We're running out of laps, and I wonder if Akil is going to get to Leighton Free.
It is a bit of a gap, and those 2 stablemates probably running very similar setups. It's going to have to be a hard ask for Akil, but he looks like he's got the pace through this section of the circuit, and especially down the back straight. Just a little bit more top end than Leighton in front of him. Leighton now with nothing to break the air in front of him. He's just allowing Akil to get onto him, making a hole for him in the air, allowing Akil to get into that slipstream and close that last kart and a half, 2 kart lengths gap.
Leighton probably aware of Akil sneaking up on him, and it will going to be look left, look right, make sure you can keep the lines right, keep your focus to the front, don't pay too much attention from what you're hearing behind you.
It's a difficult thing to do as a driver, to ignore the person behind you. You know he's catching, but you just got to stay consistent, stay on your line and make as little mistakes as possible, if any.
Down the main straight we go again, and I think looking further back, Simpson Heave has caught the Piper, so we could see a change there as well.
It looks a little bit more spread out than it did in the previous heat. Obviously, with the work done between heat to heats and between races, especially knowing that you put on new tyres in qualifying, getting used to the new set of rubber, getting the chassis dialed in for that new set of rubber, and you can see those doing it slightly differently, and the gaps have formed now in the field.
You've always also got to remember, you lost Kwanda Mokoena, he's gone, who was playing in the front 6. You lost Jaden Els, who was in the front 6, he's also not here. So suddenly that's why these gaps are there, because you drop drivers out of a race.
This is true, but what I find strange is the drop-off that Visser has shown in this last heat. He had such a strong turn of pace in the previous heat. He was right there in for the win, and now he just seems to have dropped off just slightly, putting him out of contention for the win.
Akil is looking like he wants to pounce. He is really lining him up, and
down the inside he goes, into the right hand after the back straight. Leighton trying to do the cutback, but it's not enough through this right-left combination as they head through the long sweep. He's going to be looking down the inside here, though. Well, I would. Just not close enough, though, to get onto the brakes.
Yeah, Akil, I think, was thinking about that previous lap already. He executed it perfectly, and he's pulled a bit of a gap immediately.
He tried the block pass on Leighton, but Leighton wise to it, braking early and not giving him the opportunity to slow him down on the apex and get away from him. So he's kept it nice and tight, but I don't think he's got the pace that Akil does as they head over the start-finish line.
Now Akil going very, very quick and getting almost a comfortable gap, and as I say that, Leighton says, no, I'm right back in it.
I'll make it up on the brakes, watch me. But I think he's a bit late to get into this race. If he maybe done the moves a little bit early in the race, he'd be up there with Joseph Wools and fighting for the lead.
And we're bringing Charles Visser back onto their rear bumpers because he was 10-12 kart lengths back and suddenly put in a fastest lap and he's right back in it.
Again, maybe they just set the karts up for the later part of the race and they just set it up for too late in the race.
Joseph Wools cruising away at the front. He's going to come up to the checkered flag, and I think he's had one or two glances over his shoulder, coming up to the flag, and yes, the win that he thought he might get in the first race after putting it on pole, he gets it in the second race, and comfortably away from Akil Alabai, Leighton Fourie in third place, Charles Visser 4th, Simon Simpson Heath in 5th place, Daniel de Pijbach 6th, Joseph Ellerine 7th, and Sebastian Smith in 8th.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, from the start, I wanted to push away with Leighton Fourie, but I had a bit more power in the beginning, so I was lucky enough to break away from the pack and have a clean race.
What's your plan for the next one?
Plan for the next one, we're just going to have to try and do the same thing, but we know it's going to be very hard, but it's the best thing to do for now.
Tell me about your race.
That was quite tough because I was behind Charles, and then on the main straight I was catching Charles, but then out of the corner Charles was pulling me, so then I had to go on Charles, and then I made a gap from him, and then I was happy with that performance. And then where I was trying to chase Leighton, and then he had quite a bit of a gap, so then I pushed as hard as possible, and then I caught him on the main straight, and I tried to push him as wide as possible so I could have the run out. But then I managed to do that great, so I'm happy with my performance. Thank you.
Well done.
We head now into Heat 3 of the Junior Max race. It's been racy all the way through the last two heats. Unfortunately, we've had a few incidents dropping some of the front competitors out, but it'll be interesting to see what they can do here.
Yes, Joseph Wools looked very good all weekend. He's starting on the front row next to Visser and Patrizzi in the second row, and away they go. Much tighter this time around.
Oh, a lot of movement there just before the apex, and it's forced Joseph Ellerine into a very compromising position. The grass doesn't work, but it's not really cross. As we head down into the right hand after the back straight, and there's a lot of movement behind this front group. Zahin Gulen there trying to get up the inside of Daniel De Piper, unable to do so, and has dropped him into the clutches of those behind him.
Yeah, Kwanda Mokoena also there trying to make up because he had a terrible weekend.
Joseph Wall's making an early move on Charles Visser. Charles trying to go around the outside and ending up in the dirt. And that's just allowed Joseph Wall's the breathing room to turn this gap into a win.
Yeah, and we've seen in the previous race when he had a bit of a gap, he was up and gone. Nobody saw him for the rest of the race, and he went for a checkered flag. Now this big fight again for second place. Yeah, what can we do? It's Patrizi all over the back of Charles Visser there, and can the rest of the guys hang with him for the rest of for this race?
Simon Simpson Heath up in the front pack now. First time he's been there all weekend. Be interesting to see what he can do with the two strong RKT boys behind him, that of Akil Alibi and Leighton Fourie. We know they're strong, and we know they're strong towards the end of the race as well.
That train for second place is coming on strong, and I think there's still going to be a lot of shuffling in this pack before we get to the end.
I do think that gap early on for Joseph Woods is going to count in his favour. Those behind him are going to think, well, we can't get first, we might as well race it for second.
And on the inside trying to look there, but it's not going to work there. Leighton Fourie thinks, okay, the previous race was my best one for the day. I want a repeat of that. I want the podium.
I'm watching Charles Visser's kart, and it looks like he's turning that steering wheel a lot harder than he was before. Maybe generating a bit of understeer, something he wasn't expecting. Maybe a setup change in the wrong direction, but he is definitely winding that steering wheel. That's only going to burn up those front tires and make it difficult for him to drive towards the end. Simon and him get a little bit tagged up on the brakes. Maybe Simon didn't see how early Charles was braking. Charles still gives a cheeky look back to see who it was who pushed him wide. Not knowing that it was Simon behind him, maybe thinking it was Leighton as he lifts his hands off the steering wheel.
Visser under pressure, big pressure coming from behind, and this time there's 5-6 guys coming up behind him, not just 2 or 3 like in the previous race.
If you look again now as we go through to the last corner, you'll see he seems to wind the steering wheel a lot farther than anybody else in front of him, and I'm wondering if that's maybe not hurting him towards the end of the race.
Start of the next lap, and this front lot has let Ulls get away. Patrizi's also got a slight bit of a gap, while these guys from 3rd place right down to 8th place is in a long queue coming down this back straight.
Kwanda Mokoena at the back of that train, looking to move his way up. He's had a shocking national thus far. Maybe he can turn this last heat into something.
I'm sure his tyres is fresher than everybody else by now.
Yeah, he's only done a few laps. 1 lap, I think, in Heat 1 and 2 laps in Heat 2. So he definitely got a fresher set of tyres on him compared to the rest of those in front of us. As again, we watch Leighton Fourie and Charles Visser through that double right there. You can actually see on the edge of the circuit the amount of rubber being thrown off the tyres. It shows how much grip is actually on the circuit today. Something we don't often see at Vereeniging. Vereeniging's always known to be dusty and slippery, but it does have a lot of grip on it this weekend.
I think part of it is the fact that in recent times, I've walked on the outside of a circuit. It's very moist, very damp, lots of water. We've had good rain in recent times. So unlike previous years, the different time of the year having the event might have a lot to do with it.
Look, the circuit's also gone through a very extensive rejuvenation, a lot of resurfacing happening. You can see the tires a lot darker and blacker than it was before. The concrete patches are missing. So I think they've taken a step in the right direction with the work they've done on the circuit and on the facilities here.
It's always good to see when facilities get upgraded. It's always good to see. I know Cape Town is in dire need of some surface upgrade because the surface has been very, very bumpy there. That's where we're going next. And if we want to keep on producing world champions like we have over the last 15 years, then we must have the facilities to go with it.
Patrizi seems to be getting away here from Akil Alibi and Charles Visser, as there is a stranded kart just after the chicane, the fastest part in the circuit, as we watch the second group now. Kwanda Mokoena moving up into 7th, now looking racy behind Simon. He's made the move down the inside and he's made it stick rather so much with ease, not to take anything away from Simon Simpson Heath.
No, it's good to see Kwanda coming back. His last year he won his first national championship. He's come second the year before by half a point in a championship, and it's great to see him going through the character building phase, as his dad likes to call it, because he always says he's building so much character he doesn't know what he's going to do with it all.
Yeah, we like to call it school fees. A weekend, a bad weekend is always called school fees.
Yeah, and every champion across the world will always tell you, I didn't win a championship every time I stepped into a kart. It was a lot of school fees paid towards those championships.
One of those drivers doing that we just saw a couple of shots of was Jared Roberski, normally a front runner in this class, struggling this weekend. maybe not getting that progress chassis of his as right as he needed it for himself, but I'm sure he'll be strong in Cape Town when we head down there next.
Patrizi suddenly, they're onto him. They've caught Patrizi, and now he suddenly have to look around because he had clear air all around, and now he's under pressure.
The gap between this group and Leighton Free has grown substantially over the last few laps. He's unable just to stay in touch with Charles Visser, and it looks like he'll be out of this fight for second place.
Yes, Charles is hanging. It seems like he's just hanging on for where he is now. It just doesn't seem like he can attack or make a move.
Well, we know in this class that just hanging on could be enough to go from 4th to 2nd.
And lap after lap, let's see if Patrizi can handle the pressure.
We head now into the last few remaining laps of the race. It's lap 9 of 15. The last heat is always longer than the two previous, and it looks like Charles Visser has just dropped off those 2 or 3 car lengths. I say he needs to hang on, and maybe he can pick up a bit of a prize here, but it looks like that gap is going to be too big to do that. As we head down the back straight, Akil Alibi looking racy down the inside of a stablemate. Thought about it, thought better of it.
Yes, and let's see how can Patrizi handle the pressure.
Patrizi, the youngster, moving up. He moved up. There's the move down the inside from Akil. It's a strong move, and he hasn't made a stick though. Ooh, Patrizi trying the same thing he tried on Alson, and it almost ended in the same way. And it did. Akil stuck it down the inside, but that pushed Charles Visser onto the back of him. Unfortunately, Charles had nowhere to go but over the back wheel of Akil. This allowed Leighton Free through on Akil and into the hunt for second.
Yes, we were talking about Visser not having the pace. He didn't need the pace. He got help from these guys. There's the replay.
Akil down the inside now. Patrizi round down, did the cutback move like he tried on Alce. Akil then wise to it, cut back on him, but it just slowed him down enough to force Visser into the back of him and forced him wide.
And Leighton Free says, "Thank you very much. That's how I make a place."
It's unfortunate that the 3 drivers that got tangled in were all 3 RKT drivers.
On the last lap, and Joseph Wools has disappeared at the front, and Charles Visser happy with the inherited second place.
Daniel Patrizi though definitely had the pace to pull back onto Patrizi, maybe just to pull back onto Visser, maybe just too worried with the hard charging Leighton Free who's been gifted that 4th place.
I think Leighton this weekend will be happy with that. And here we have Joseph Wools. We hardly saw any of him since the first 2-3 laps, and crossing the line for another victory on the day. Charles Visser crossing the line in second place behind him. The 2 Cape Townians making it 1-2 ahead of Daniel Patrizi, Leighton Free in 4th. Akil Alibi ended up in 5th after his little bit of off-road excursion. Kwanda in 6th, ended up Daniel De Paiva in 7th place.
Good race, tell me about it.
From the start, geez, I mean, we might have not set up for the end, but we really got a stunner of a start. And when I got past Visser, I had to put my head down because I saw Patrizi coming so quickly at me, and we might have not done the right settings for the end, but sure, we hung on there.
Plans going into the next event?
Well, we're just going to have to try the same thing, get the right setups, and get away with it.
Well, it was a difficult race. I didn't have so much pace, but they kept me on my heels. But it's a good race. A lot of competition.
Next race, plans?
Next race, my home national. High hopes for that. Also, Joe is he's very quick in Kailani, so it will be between me and him.
The last race, it was a good race. I started 3rd and I finished 3rd, but the first 2 heats didn't go my way. I got a 5-place penalty in the first heat and a nose cone infringement in the second heat. So today hasn't really been going my way, but I'll bring it through at the end.
Plans going into the next race?
Yeah, well, it's at Cape Town and I'm normally pretty good at that track, so I think we're going to get the setup right there and hopefully pull out a win.